tell a student, well, let's try this. If he isn't accomplishing something and not doing it well, you as the teacher must know why he isn't doing it well. And if you're a good teacher, you'll be able to. Now that doesn't come overnight, but you'll be able to. I can watch a student, whether he's been playing 5 days or if he's been playing 30, 40 years. And I think Chris will bear this out. If he plays for me 30 seconds, I'll know exactly every one of his problems and why he isn't playing well. And that's what you want to do. You've got to analyze and make sure that you know why you're doing something. Now, that means you must study your student, too. Because every one of your students will have a different personality. Some will have a don't care personality. Some will be so dedicated that it actually gets in their way. And there'll be some with a work habit that's 0, and some of them that can't work enough that they'll overdo it. And their vitality will be different. And their span of concentration will be different. So you've got to study, you've got to know your student. Remember, you're the teacher. You'll get one like Kathy if I had your friend, you know, if she came up. I'd have to study her like crazy to see what all her emotional problems are and why she's so adamant that she's going to do it one way, right or wrong. Even though she knows by example that she's on the wrong road. She can't help it because she's not improving. But when she sees others improving that were right at her level, unless there's something wrong, she should understand, shouldn't she? Like I had a student, Bobby Berenson. He's a teacher now, some school, I've lost track of him. He was a manager, also managed Harry James, and he lived next door to me. And Bobby Berenson, he's probably, oh, I thought you were, he's probably on the back of that too. But anyway, he was the son of a guy at the market down on the corner, down at the Fox Market. And so his dad managed the liquor department. So he knew the manager, of course, in the liquor department. So they, he said, you know, I'd like to have my boy learn trumpet. He really wants to play trumpet. He says, do you think you could arrange to get him lessons? And Pee Wee says, sure. So he came up and Pee Wee said, I want you to take that young kid. Well, I still was past the time where I took youngsters, you know. But Pee Wee wanted me to, so I said, okay. So the next day, Saturday, here he came walking up the street with his little cornet. He had a little cornet. He was only about that high, you know. That kid had a concentration span. He wouldn't show it. But this was one of the best I ever saw in my life. He got every lesson right to the nth degree. Never questioned me. So, you know, say, I'll try this, but I'm going to hold this in reserve. It's not going to work. And remember that for yourself, because it's not going to work. You, the teacher, know. Now, there's not one teacher out of 10,000 that know. Now, how do they teach? Now, someone answer me that question. How does the average teacher teach? Whether his degree or not is irrelevant. How does he teach? You've had some experience, I'm sure.
From experience? From experience?
From their experience, yeah. But it isn't, or is it, let me ask the question, is it from knowing, or is it from saying, well, I do this or I do that?
No, it's not, it's totally unorganized. I mean, it's like, they don't really know, it's like
They just regurgitate what they learned themselves.
Yeah, they just, you know, say,
Yeah.
well, you want to, you know, they actually, you know, in my case, they asked me what I wanted to play.
Yeah. And then they all, what were you going to say?
Well, I think the good teachers are always looking, are going to clinics and other teachers, and trying to make sure they have a good idea what's happening. They got
That's
a lot
true.
of different things.
And that's doing it the hard way too, isn't it? Because if you don't know yourself, then you go and you get, I'll listen to this guy. Well, he'll say one thing. Maybe he's a good player. And a lot of good players have no idea why or how they're doing it. Some just pick it up, you know, and then they get their own ideas and they put that across when they're teaching. That's like, we could name some, but we won't. And then they have the next clinic they'll go to. Now they get different opinions. And then they go to the next clinic. They get a different opinion. And you know which one they're going to pick? The one that sounds good to them. You don't want to be that kind of a teacher. A real teacher has to know. There was only 2 real teachers that I ever knew during my career, and that was old Max Schlossberg back in New York, which was long gone, and Herbert Clark. Those were the only 2 in the whole country. Now there was other teachers that were well reputed. They had a big reputation. Weldon in Chicago. And if any of you run across a Weldon, W-E-L-D-O-N book, I want it. I want to know what he had in the book. I can't find one. Old Lou Maggio did a lot of good things. He came a little later. But those were all. Now you could go to the schools and have, I could name teacher after teacher after teacher after teacher that had big reputations in the schools and all kinds of students. But they were that same kind of teacher, you know. And a lot of them you found in the music schools. Like one teacher said one time, he says, we audition them because we want to find one that we know he's got it, and then we polish the gem. In other words, his idea wasn't to teach him how to overcome his faults that would frustrate him. It was to get one that really played already and then polish it up music-wise. Now, that's all right if you're going to just teach music. But again, we get back that you've got to have the technical proficiency. All right, so remember, study your student. Now, there's different desires, too, as to what they want to do and be a player. And you want to draw this out of them, too. Because if he's just going to take lessons to fill some time, he's not going to be a student that does you any good. And you want students that are going to do you some good, don't you? And if you turn out good players, I say, they'll lead a path to your door. If you turn out students, you don't have to advertise. As I say, I never advertised ever. I never said, accepting students. You know, you see a lot of those ads. Never. All right, now then, again, I want to emphasize that you never guess. You know what you're teaching, and that's what you're here for. And you're not trying something and hope that sometime it'll work. That's like buzzing. There's teachers that emphasize buzzing, buzzing, buzzing. Down there, some of the top names that are teaching. And they have their students buzz for, yeah, that's the one of them. And they'll have their students buzzing a mouthpiece for an hour, every lesson. Hoping that someday it'll happen. It's not going to. I had a student that turned out very successful, and when I first came, he was taken from a college in LA, and he had that book, and he just played terrible. And he was afraid to start a note. He was afraid, and I mean, just in terrible shape to be a player, because a brass player can't be afraid. And you want to teach your students that right at the beginning. You miss the note, you miss it, but you don't be afraid. And instill that in the student.